Beit Shemesh, one Iranian ballistic missile, 9 people dead in a single second. Not intercepted, not deflected. Direct impact on a residential neighborhood, a synagogue destroyed, a public bomb shelter obliterated. The people inside never had time to understand what was happening. They were exactly where they had been told to go, in the shelter. And it wasn't enough. 9 dead, 40 wounded, 1 missile. Meanwhile, Iran had launched 500 of them in 4 days. 500 ballistic missiles, 2,000 drones, 4 days. The number was confirmed by Admiral Brad Cooper himself, commander of American forces in the region. Not a rumor, not an estimate, an official admission. 125 missiles per day, every single day, without pause. And the question everyone is afraid to ask out loud: can Israel actually hold? Here is what mainstream media failed to explain. What the numbers reveal when you actually look at them. What Beit Shemesh proves about the limits of missile defense. Why Iron Dome was never built for this. Why even bomb shelters cannot survive a direct hit. And why the war economy favors Iran, not Israel. Before we go further, before revealing exactly how many missiles have actually broken through Israeli defenses, and why interceptor stockpiles are draining faster than anyone predicted, look at what happened in Beit Shemesh. Because this strike is unlike anything before it. It proves something governments refuse to admit publicly. The missile hit a public shelter directly, not nearby, not adjacent, on the shelter itself, the place designed to protect civilians during bombardment. The Jerusalem District Police Chief confirmed it. The majority of those killed had been inside the public shelter at the moment of impact. Inside, people had done exactly what they were told. They ran for cover, and the missile followed them there. Shelters hold against rockets. They hold against artillery. They hold against conventional airstrikes. But a ballistic missile at direct impact is an entirely different category of violence. The kinetic energy of an object falling from the edge of space at several kilometers per second exceeds everything conventional civil defense was ever designed for. In the vast majority of cases, shelters protect, but not 100%. And when one fails, 9 people die. The entire civil defense strategy rests on a single assumption: interception works. If the missile is destroyed in flight, the shelter never needs to withstand anything. But when interception fails, the shelter becomes the last line of defense. And that last line has physical limits that nobody wanted to acknowledge before Beit Shemesh. Remember this number: 9 dead, 1 missile out of 500 launched. Now look at the true scale of what Iran deployed. 500 ballistic missiles, 2,000 drones, 4 days. These weapons targeted Israel and at least 11 other countries simultaneously. Iran was not only attacking Israel, it was striking an entire region at once, testing the defenses of multiple nations at the same time, burning through the interceptor stocks of every ally simultaneously. On March the 4th alone, a single day, here is what happened. Salvo just after midnight. Salvo before 1 in the morning. Salvo at 4:18. Another attack at 5:53. Then at 1:48 in the afternoon. Then at 2:31. Then at 4:07. 7 separate attacks in 24 hours. From midnight to late afternoon. Air raid sirens wailing every 2 to 3 hours across the country. Populations in constant motion. People running to shelters again and again. And again. Physical exhaustion, psychological exhaustion. This is also a war of attrition against the human mind. Israel has a multilayer defense system that the entire world has admired for decades. Iron Dome for short-range threats. David's Sling for medium-range missiles. Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 for long-range ballistic missiles. Arrow 3 intercepts targets outside the atmosphere entirely. In space. Impressive on paper. Here is the real problem. During previous escalations before this conflict, Iran had fired over 200 missiles specifically to saturate Israeli radar and tracking capacity. The combined Arrow and David's Sling network intercepted over 90%. 90%? That sounds excellent. But 200 missiles at a 10% pass-through rate means 20 missiles reach their targets. And one of those 20 killed 9 people in Beit Shemesh. Imagine all 20. Imagine the scale of destruction if each one found a densely populated area. This is not a technological failure. It is a mathematical reality. No system ever reaches 100%. Not a single one in history. And when volumes become large enough, even a 90% interception rate produces catastrophes. Iran understood this, and it evolved. The newest generations of Iranian missiles no longer carry a single warhead. Some missiles carry dozens of small explosive submunitions that disperse as they fall. Instead of intercepting one projectile, the defense system must now handle 10, 20, sometimes more individual targets per missile. The radar detects one incoming missile. An interceptor is launched. The missile separates mid-flight. 10 submunitions continue their descent. The interceptor neutralizes one. 9 continue. That is the logic of cluster munitions applied to modern ballistic warfare, and the Israeli defense system was never designed for it. Iran also deployed the Hajj-Qassam, a multi-warhead ballistic missile developed specifically to saturate and overwhelm missile shield systems. Multi-warhead. One missile becomes 10 targets. The calculation changes completely. Interception resources are divided by 10 for the same missile launched, and Iran has hundreds of these in inventory. Now look at the economics of this war, because this is where the most uncomfortable truth hides. An Iranian missile costs between $200,000 and $500,000 to produce. A David sling or arrow interceptor costs Israel between $1 million and $2 million, 4 times more, a 4-to-1 ratio. Iran spends $500,000. Israel spends $2 million to stop it. And if the interceptor misses, Israel burned $2 million for nothing. Multiply that across 500 missiles. Assume 2 interceptors launch per missile to guarantee the kill. That is 1,000 interceptors. At $2 million each. $2 billion in 4 days on interceptors alone. Iran spent $250 million on missiles. Israel spent $2 billion defending against them. Who wins that economic war over time? Iron Dome costs $80,000 per interception. Cheaper. But here is the problem nobody states clearly enough. Iron Dome was designed for short-range rockets. Hamas rockets from Gaza. Hezbollah rockets from Lebanon. Projectiles with a range of 4 to 70 kilometers, 2 to 43 miles. Iron Dome has been operational since 2011 against exactly that kind of threat. Not against ballistic missiles launched from Iran, over 1,500 kilometers away, re-entering the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds. Wrong system for the wrong threat. During Operation True Promise 3, the Iranian strikes of 2025, the Iron Dome interception rate against ballistic missiles was not 90%. It was 20 to 30%. 20 to 30, not 90. For ballistic missiles specifically, which means 7 out of 10 were passing through. 7 out of 10. Public perception of Iron Dome's effectiveness far exceeds its operational reality against this category of threat. A senior research fellow in security studies at Chatham House stated exactly that. Perception versus reality. And the reality is that long-range ballistic missiles represent the structural weak point of the entire Israeli defensive apparatus. An Israeli military spokesperson acknowledged it directly. No defense system ever achieves a flawless success rate. Never. Which means missiles will always get through. The question is not whether, it is how many, and where they land. For days into the conflict, at least one of America's Gulf allies was already signaling a worrying depletion of its critical interceptor stocks. For days, emergency resupply requests to the United States were filed. The phrase coming from the region was unambiguous. It is not panic yet, but the sooner they arrive, the better. Stocks draining after 4 days. What happens after 4 weeks? The United States itself consumed roughly 25% of its THAAD missile interceptor inventory during the 12-day Israel-Iran war in June 2025. 12 days. A quarter of American THAAD stock gone. And THAAD is not manufactured in a matter of weeks. The production chain is long, complex, and severely limited. Reconstituting those stocks takes months, sometimes longer than a year. Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly said it without softening. Iran has a massive production capacity for Shahed drones and ballistic missiles of every range category, and its stockpiles are enormous. At some point this becomes a math problem. A math problem. Not a question of technology. Not a question of courage. Numbers. Iran has thousands of missiles. America and its allies have hundreds of interceptors. Do the math. The tactical reality emerging from all of this is deeply uncomfortable. Analysts are beginning to discuss the necessity of becoming more selective about what gets intercepted. Prioritizing. Letting certain threats through to preserve interceptors for the most dangerous targets. Accepting that some missiles will reach Israeli soil. Accepting civilian casualties because stopping everything is physically impossible. That is the cold logic of stock exhaustion, not an ideological choice. A physical and economic constraint. Now look at what Iran actually holds in inventory. Less than 36 hours after renewed hostilities began, the Israeli military estimated that Iran still possessed approximately 2,500 ballistic missiles. 2,500. Current stock. Before this war, Iran was actively accelerating production to scale that inventory from 3,000 to 8,000 missiles within 2 years. 8,000. That is the declared objective. They are not there yet. But 2,500 is already enough to sustain this tempo for weeks. During the 12-day war in June, Iran had launched over 500 missiles. Israel survived. But at what cost? And restocking the interceptor supply took several months afterward. The system held. Barely. And now the same scenario is unfolding at higher intensity, with more sophisticated tactics, with cluster munitions multiplying targets tenfold, and with allies burning through their own stocks at the same time. The United Kingdom is flying aircraft from Cyprus and Qatar to intercept drones and missiles. Britain is helping. That is genuinely good news. Qatar states it has sufficient stocks for an extended period, but remains in contact with U.S. Central Command in case resupply becomes necessary. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait. Every ally is firing interceptors. 7 defending nations simultaneously against one attacking country. 7 shields draining at once against a single source of missiles. Admiral Brad Cooper confirmed it publicly. 500 ballistic missiles. 2,000 drones. 4 days. Acknowledged, not denied. He added that Iran's ability to strike Israel and its partners was declining. That American and allied combat power was building. Perhaps. But Iran was still launching multiple salvos every day at the time of those statements. Missiles were still getting through. People were still dying. And Beit Shemesh was there, in the rubble, to demonstrate exactly what that means when a near-perfect system fails once. Here is what we know with absolute certainty. 9 people killed in Beit Shemesh by a single Iranian missile that penetrated every layer of defense. Iran launched 500 ballistic missiles and 2,000 drones in 4 days. Iron Dome intercepts only 20 to 30% of ballistic missiles. An Iranian missile costs $500,000. An Israeli interceptor costs $2 million. Gulf allies were requesting emergency resupply after just 4 days. Iran still holds 2,500 ballistic missiles in stock, and no defense system in history has ever achieved 100% effectiveness. The Israeli multilayer system was built to stop Gaza rockets, Hezbollah projectiles, short to medium-range threats, in limited volumes, from nearby positions. Not 500 ballistic missiles in 4 days launched from 1,500 kilometers away. The system performs against low-volume threats. It gets overwhelmed under sustained, relentless bombardment. Iran has understood this limitation and is exploiting it methodically. Cluster munitions that multiply targets by 10. Economic warfare that forces Israel to spend 4 times more per interception. Multiple salvos per day that prevent any logistical recovery. The math does not work. Iran can launch missiles faster than Israel can reconstitute its interceptors. And some will always get through, regardless of how advanced the technology is. Beit Shemesh proved it. This is not the failure of a system. This is the absolute physical limit of any system when asked to do something it was never designed for. Stopping hundreds of ballistic missiles per day, for weeks, without interruption, without rest, without running dry, unless something fundamentally changes. Unless Iran exhausts its missiles before Israel exhausts its interceptors. Unless something from the outside breaks this dynamic. More strikes will get through. The question is no longer whether, it is how many, and where, and who will be inside the shelter next time a missile clears every layer and finds the ground. Israel does not apologize. Israel does not retreat. Israel does not collapse. But the mathematics never lie.